Hello everyone, welcome to our audiobook channel. If you enjoy this story or want to hear more exciting content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Your feedback helps us improve and bring even more captivating stories. Enjoy listening. Chapter 1. Stronger Just by Breathing. Pingyin County. Train your muscles, bones, and skin on the outside, and train your breath on the inside. In our extreme mountain fist hall, everyone is treated equally. Even the most precious internal cultivation techniques are taught to you. As long as you work hard enough, better and stronger cultivation techniques are waiting for you. Bai Hong, the eldest senior brother of the extreme mountain fist hall, proclaimed loudly, as the people at the boxing gym listened attentively. In the corner stood a dark and skinny figure, holding his head up. However, a closer look revealed his gaze to be vacant and dull. It had been 10 days since Qianfei found himself inexplicably transported to this world. Only after absorbing the memories of the original body did he realize that this was a world similar to ancient times on Earth. However, there were martial artists here who held high positions and could easily kill an ordinary person, like crushing an ant. Qianfei was currently a menial worker in a medical hall, not even considered an apprentice, just doing odd jobs. Learning medical skills. There was absolutely no chance for that, as they wouldn't even give him the opportunity. Learning secretly? If caught, he would be disabled on the spot and left to fend for himself. The original body was unwilling to live like this for the rest of his life, so he obediently did his chores in the medical clinic, hoping to gain some favor and learn some skills. Unfortunately, all the other menial workers had the same idea, and Qianfei began to question his life. Helpless, he used the money he had saved to join the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall to become a disciple, hoping to change his fate. The Extreme Mountain Fist Hall was very straightforward, teaching him a breathing technique and a set of accompanying martial arts as soon as he became a disciple. Qianfei treasured them dearly and diligently practiced them in his spare time. After 3 months of martial arts training, just as he was about to get the hang of the breathing technique and martial arts, he overexerted himself and fell seriously ill, eventually passing away. Qianfei assimilated the memories of the original body and also had a keen interest in martial arts. He practiced for a period of time. However, the facts proved that there was a reason why the original body had been unable to learn martial arts in those 3 months. It was because he was lacking in talent. When Qianfei inherited this body, he realized that his talent was not much better either. The original body had thought about making money and becoming wealthy with modern ideas. Qianfei originally had the same idea, but he had signed a contract to work as a menial servant in the medical hall for 20 years. If he wanted to leave, it was not impossible, but he would have to pay a high price to break the contract. Moreover, all the extra income he earned belonged to the medical hall, and if he were found to be hiding anything, he would be severely punished. It was rather inhumane and cruel. The original owner had paid a huge price to enter it just to be a servant for a lifetime. At least in the medical hall, he had the chance to work like an ox or a horse, while in other places, he wouldn't even have the opportunity to do so. It wasn't until just now that a virtual panel appeared in front of Qianfei's eyes. Name, Qianfei. Class, None. Cultivation Technique, Extreme Mountain Fist, Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique. Cultivation Realm, None. Discovered Cultivation Technique. Do you want to spend 1 tael of silver to simplify Extreme Mountain Fist? Discovered Cultivation Technique. Spend 1 tael of silver to simplify Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique, the interface prompted Qianfei, who was momentarily distracted by its sudden appearance. Start practicing. Bai Hong barked, interrupting his thoughts. If you don't make progress in the Extreme Mountain Fist soon, you'll have to pay more money to come to the martial arts hall next month. You should be aware of this. Qianfei returned to his senses and continued practicing diligently, not daring to speak out of turn. Bai Hong glanced at him skeptically. He knew Chen Fei's background and had a feeling that he was just an ordinary person who wouldn't be able to change his fate. After 2 hours of grueling training, Chen Fei left the boxing hall feeling exhausted and hungry. He hurried back to the medical hall, greeting a few familiar menial servants before retreating to his shared dormitory. The cramped space smelled sour and pungent, but Chen Fei was used to it by now. When he first arrived, he almost passed out from the overwhelming odor. 1 tael of silver. It's not that much money, Chen Fei muttered to himself as he sat on his bunk, frowning at the panel. He still didn't understand its function, and no matter how he tried to activate it, it remained unresponsive. Only the flashing notifications asking for payment caught his attention. But Chen Fei had already spent all his savings to join the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall, and he hadn't earned a single tael of silver since then. I have to find a way to get this money, he thought, recalling that the original body had hidden a medicinal herb outside. A few months ago, the medical hall had run out of herbs, so the menial workers had followed the herb gatherers up the mountain to pick more. During that trip, the original body had secretly hidden an herb. They had also encountered something evil on the mountain, and 3 people had died, prompting the original body to learn martial arts. He had heard that if one cultivated martial arts to a certain level, they could resist such entities. Even if they couldn't fight back, the entity would target those with weaker vitality first. Given the recent unrest in the area outside the county town, the medical hall would likely need to gather herbs more often. This was Chen Fei's chance to retrieve the hidden herb and sell it to earn the needed money. He left the dormitory, intending to borrow from the other menial workers, but they all refused. 1 tael of silver was too much for them to spare. Chapter 2. Stronger just by breathing, 2. After hesitating for a moment, Chen Fei left the medicine hall as he was concerned that borrowing money from multiple people would raise suspicion. An hour later, Chen Fei managed to obtain the herb successfully. He covered his face with a straw hat and sold the herb secretly in a local market for 1 or 2 silver coins and 50 copper coins. Chen Fei didn't dare to go back to the medicine hall, so he headed to an abandoned courtyard in the county. Simplify extreme mountain breathing technique. Chen Fei recited in his mind. In the next moment, the tael of silver in his sleeve disappeared, and the interface in his vision flickered slightly. Simplifying extreme mountain breathing technique. Simplification successful. Extreme mountain breathing technique. Breathing. Breathing. Before Chen Fei could wrap his head around it, he suddenly saw that the information on the interface representing himself had changed. Class, Warrior. Cultivation Techniques, Extreme Mountain Fist, Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique, Beginner 1/100. Cultivation Realm, None. As Chen Fei continued to breathe naturally, a warm sensation spread throughout his body, and the number behind the entry level of the breathing technique kept increasing. In just a short while, it had become 10/100. Many insights regarding the extreme mountain breathing technique naturally appeared in his mind. I can cultivate just by breathing. At this moment, Chen Fei was stunned. Wasn't this simplified function a little too much? The extreme mountain breathing technique was a special breathing method to mobilize the internal organs of the body and strengthen the body. Now, after the simplification, it actually became that just the act of breathing itself could improve his cultivation level. This was simply incredible, and Chen Fei was thrilled. He really liked this new development. Bang! Just as Chen Fei was about to continue studying the breathing technique, the door of the courtyard was suddenly kicked open, and a group of people rushed in aggressively. It's him, Kui Steward. Shadaxin pointed at Chen Fei and said, I saw him selling a herb for money just now before running here. Chen Fei frowned slightly. Shadaxin had a conflict with his original self before. He didn't expect to be caught selling herbs. In other words, it seemed like this person had been keeping an eye on him and finally found an opportunity. Search him. Kui Sanja waved his hand, and a few menial workers immediately pounced on Chen-Fei. Chen-Fei did not resist and allowed them to search him. In just a moment, they threw all the money Chen-Fei had on him, which was 50 copper coins, on the ground. "Didn't you say that he sold it for 1 tael of silver?" Kui Sanja frowned and turned to look at Shadaxin. He must have hidden the money in the courtyard. Shadaxin was slightly flustered but immediately thought of a reason. He walked to Chen-Fei and grabbed his collar, shouting, "Chen-Fei, your deeds have been exposed. Hurry up and hand over the money. Otherwise, things will get more complicated later. I didn't sell any herbs. Don't falsely accuse me." Chen-Fei pried Shadaxin's hand away and said with an innocent expression, "Steward Kui, the money must be in this courtyard. We just need to search it carefully, and we will definitely find it." Shadaxin glared at Chen-Fei fiercely and turned to Kui Sanja. Kui Sanja didn't say a word but glanced around the dilapidated courtyard, observing the dust-covered ground and the footprints they had left. Nothing else seemed out of place. "Why are you here?" Kui Sanja asked Chen-Fei. "I came to calm down after failing in martial arts practice," Chen-Fei replied softly. Kui Sanja smirked. He had heard that this menial worker had attempted to become a disciple at the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall but had achieved nothing after 3 months. "Shadaxin, come here," Kui Sanja ordered. "Yes, Steward Kui," Shadaxin replied quickly, approaching them. "Pa!" With a loud thud, Shadaxin stumbled to the side, clutching his red and swollen cheek. A few teeth had fallen out, and he looked bewildered. "Next time, don't come to me if you don't have evidence," Kui Sanja said calmly. I understand," Shadaxin stuttered in fright. Kui Sanja shook his head, feeling bored, and left the courtyard. The other menial workers followed him, but Shadaxin stayed behind, glaring at Chen-Fei with malice. Unable to take out his anger on Kui Sanja, he directed it at Chen-Fei instead. "You're lucky this time." Shadaxin spat at Chen-Fei before turning to leave. An hour later, Chen-Fei returned to his sleeping quarters in the medical hall and checked his status on the interface. Class, Warrior. Cultivation Techniques, Extreme Mountain Fist, Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique, Master 930/1000. Cultivation Realm, Warrior, 1/100. The Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique had reached mastery level, and each breath he took gave his body more strength. His cultivation level had also risen, and he had become a warrior. According to the senior disciple of the boxing club, a warrior was just an ordinary person who had started practicing martial arts. The true achievement was reaching the skin toughening realm, which would set one apart from ordinary people and allow them to become a member of the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall. As Chen-Fei was contemplating this, the interface changed again. Cultivation Technique, Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique, Perfection 1/10,000. Cultivation Realm, Warrior, 2/100. The warmth in his body became more apparent, and his cultivation level rose by a point. His stomach rumbled, indicating that his body was slowly becoming stronger and needed more energy. The medical hall only provided 2 meals a day, and fish and meat were out of the question. However, he could still eat enough to satisfy his hunger, as the medical hall was not too strict in this regard. Chen-Fei deliberately ate more, but he still woke up hungry in the middle of the night. He checked his cultivation progress on the interface and found that his breathing technique was still at perfection and had increased by a few thousand points. He estimated that he would be able to break through to the next level, but he didn't know if there were any other realms beyond perfection. His cultivation level had also increased, and he would probably reach the skin toughening realm in less than 20 days, becoming a true martial artist. This would give him a choice between staying in the medical hall or going to the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall. Chen-Fei worked diligently with newfound hope and energy, feeling a great sense of accomplishment with each jump in the numbers on the interface. Before noon, the extreme mountain breathing technique had reached its peak. Cultivation technique, extreme mountain breathing technique, great completion. There was no room for improvement. Chen Fei had reached the pinnacle of the extreme mountain breathing technique. At this level of cultivation, he had almost achieved the same level as the person who had created the technique. In the extreme mountain fist hall, no one had ever perfected this breathing technique. Since it was just a basic technique, there was no need to struggle with it. Chen Fei had cultivated it to perfection naturally. As he continued to practice, the benefits of the consummate level breathing technique became more apparent. The interface confirmed his suspicion, the time taken to progress had effectively been halved. He had initially estimated that it would take him 20 days to reach the skin toughening realm, but now it seemed that he could achieve it in 10 days. Chen Fei's appetite increased gradually, but he was not reprimanded for it. In fact, he was even praised by one of the stewards 2 days ago. Compared to the other lackluster menial workers, Chen Fei's positive attitude and energetic spirit had caught the attention of the steward, who had shown some concern for him as a result. The other menial workers were envious of Chen Fei's progress and had become much closer to him. However, Sha Daxin, who was in the corner, still looked at him coldly. Chapter 3. Counterattack. 7 or 8 days had passed, and Chen Fei's originally thin body had gradually grown and developed some muscles, making him look less small and weak. Just as Chen Fei was looking forward to breaking through to the skin toughening realm, the medical hall suddenly informed him that they were going to the mountains outside the city to pick herbs. Early the next morning, a group of workers from the medical hall left the city with an empty basket on their backs to store herbs and arrived at Mount Pinyin. It had not been very peaceful outside the city recently, but the medical hall needed medicinal herbs. So sending disciples to collect them was unavoidable. Each person had a target for collecting herbs, and once they completed it, they could leave the mountain. If they couldn't meet their quota, they would have to return in 3 days, and they wouldn't be able to escape a beating. The group dispersed into the vast Mount Pinyin and quickly disappeared from sight. Chen Fei walked for quite some time before he saw a stalk of medicinal herb and couldn't help but happily approach to pick it. With the constant improvement of his cultivation, not only did Chen Fei's physical strength improve, but his senses had also become sharper. At this moment, although Chen Fei was picking herbs, his ears and eyes were paying attention to the surrounding environment from time to time in case there was any danger lurking unbeknownst to him. Although there weren't any large beasts on Mount Pinyin, there were many poisonous insects and snakes. Every time they picked herbs, many menial workers got injured and, in some cases, even killed. Halfway through picking the herbs, Chen Fei's expression suddenly changed, and he swiftly threw himself forward. In the next moment, an arrow struck where Chen Fei had been standing before, still trembling slightly with its powerful force. If Chen Fei hadn't dodged earlier, the arrow would have pierced through his vitals. Chen Fei hid behind a big tree with a chopper in his hand. His heart was overflowing with anger. If his reaction had been a little slower just now, he would have been at the mercy of his assailant. "Not bad, you've got quick reflexes." A laugh rang out. "This kid has been practicing in the extreme mountain fist hall for some time, so he's got some agility." Sha Daxin's voice sounded. "He does have some skills. Go to the other side. He won't be able to escape today." "Oh no, the kid's trying to escape. Chase after him." Niu Kuo raised his eyebrows slightly. He was about to raise his bow and arrow when he realized that Chen Fei kept running between the trees, making it difficult to lock onto him. Although Niu Kuo was a hunter and had some archery skills, he was still just an ordinary person. Chen Fei, on the other hand, is about to break through and has become stronger than an average person in terms of physical strength and keenness. Therefore, despite Niu Kuo's pursuit, Chen Fei could easily outrun him. "Chen Fei, how dare you run like a cowardly woman? Why are you running? Come over and hit me, come and kill me." Sha Daxin shouted loudly. Chen Fei didn't respond. He ran with large strides, and in less than 15 minutes, he had shaken off the two people behind him. Chen Fei's expression was cold. He couldn't let this matter go just like that. However, Niu Kuo had a bow and arrow. With Chen Fei's current strength, he couldn't break through directly unless his cultivation level increased. With this thought in mind, Chen Fei looked at his interface. Cultivation technique, extreme mountain fist, not yet learned, extreme mountain breathing technique, peak. Cultivation realm, warrior, 99/100. It's almost time for an upgrade. Chen Fei's expression brightened slightly. The original estimate he had was 10 days, but now it seemed that it would happen even earlier. Moreover, the intense running and breathing just now seemed to have increased the speed of his realm a little faster. Chen Fei thought of Niu Kuo's attire just now and guessed that he might be a hunter from Mount Pingyuan. He might be able to track Chen Fei based on his tracks. Chen Fei didn't stay in one place but ran in a different direction. After running for a while, he rested for a while. An hour later, Chen Fei stopped because he felt that his body was undergoing a drastic change. In the next moment, the sound of bones and tendons ringing together came from Chen Fei's body. Chen Fei involuntarily lifted his head. A surge of pain burst from inside his body, followed by a tingling sensation that coursed through his skin and flesh. Fortunately, this feeling only lasted for a moment before subsiding. Chen Fei felt a surge of power in his body, and he instinctively clenched his fists. Cultivation realm, skin toughening, 1/1000. The interface clearly displayed Chen Fei's current cultivation level. Chen Fei looked around, and subtle sounds floated into Chen Fei's ears. He could also see further. Chen Fei jumped a few times on the spot. He didn't know if it was because of the interface or the perfected breathing technique, but he had perfect control over his own strength after breaking through. He exerted strength and moved his body as he pleased. At this moment, he could knock down his former self with a single punch. As for Niu Kuo's bow and arrow, it was nothing more than just the strength and archery skills of an ordinary person. Meanwhile, hundreds of meters away, this kid is too good at running. When we catch him later, we have to torture him properly. Shadaxin gritted his teeth and said coldly. Torturing people is easy. I'll cut his skin and pour some honey into his wound. I guarantee he'll suffer. Niu Kuo laughed loudly. Then I'll leave it in your hands, Niu Kuo, Shadaxin said flatteringly. I've taken your money, so it's only right to do some work for you. Niu Kuo didn't care. He looked ahead and said, although that kid can run, he must be on tenterhooks right now. We'll slowly follow behind him and eventually exhaust him to death. I'm afraid he'll run back to the medical hall. I actually hope he runs down the mountain. It'll be easier to stop him. In Niu Kuo's eyes, killing a person was much easier than killing a wild beast. You're indeed formidable. Shadaxin smiled charmingly. Ha ha ha, if such a thing happens again in the future, feel free to look for me. Whoosh. Before Niu Kuo could finish his sentence, his expression suddenly changed. He rolled to the side, and a bowl-sized stone flew over his head. Niu Kuo stood up and was about to raise his bow and arrow when a figure appeared in front of him out of nowhere. With a kick, the bow and arrow in his hand were kicked away, and Niu Kuo was flipped over by a tremendous force, involuntarily falling backward. Chen Fei. Shadaxin hadn't even realized what had happened when he saw Chen Fei appear and kick Niu Kuo away. He instinctively swung the chopper in his hand toward Chen Fei. Chen Fei kicked Shadaxin in the chest. With a muffled sound, Shadaxin spat out blood and flew back a few meters. He crashed into a big tree and slid to the ground. Young hero, this is a misunderstanding. Niu Kuo suddenly shouted as the situation turned around. Chen Fei, however, said nothing, and with determined steps, he approached Niu Kuo, sweeping the machete in his hand toward him. Niu Kuo saw Chen Fei's decisiveness, and a vicious look flashed through his eyes. A grabbed a handful of lime in his hand, threw it at Chen Fei while he pulled out a dagger in his other hand, and stabbed Chen Fei. Tisk. A pair of hands flew through the air, and Niu Kuo looked at his own arms in a daze. The next moment, he felt a pain in his neck. The world turned upside down and finally plunged into darkness. Chen Fei turned around expressionlessly and walked towards Sha Daxin. "You're a murderer. Chen Fei, you'll die a horrible death." Sha Daxin cursed loudly, seemingly knowing that he wouldn't survive. Chen Fei sheathed his machete, and Sha Daxin collapsed weakly beside him. Chapter 4. Dilapidated Temple. Chen Fei searched the two of them and only found some copper coins. A light drizzle began to fall from the sky. Chen Fei looked at his surroundings and ran toward the southeast. As night fell, the fragrance of meat filled the air in a dilapidated temple, occasionally accompanied by voices of conversation. It was rumored that there was once an omnipotent immortal on Mount Pingyuan who could overturn rivers and seas, and a temple was built on Mount Pingyuan. However, this temple wasn't very effective. After only a few years, it was completely abandoned and became a place for people to stay overnight on Mount Pingyuan temporarily. Chen Fei carefully flipped the rabbit meat on the branch. His luck was not bad, and he managed to get a rabbit. At this moment, a few workers from the medical hall were chatting while glancing at the rabbit meat from time to time. Their eyes were filled with desire. There was no fish or meat in the medical hall. If they wanted to eat meat, they had to go out and buy it themselves. However, with their wages, they couldn't even afford to eat meat once a month. Knock, knock, knock. A knock sounded on the door, and one of the workers went forward to open the door. As the cold wind blew in, Chen Fei subconsciously looked outside the door. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he retracted his gaze. Great. There's rabbit meat. I'm starving. Chi Chun saw the roasted rabbit and couldn't help but rejoice. Just you? I thought the others were with you. The worker who opened the door looked outside and could not help but ask curiously. I don't know either. Chi Chun shook his head and sat on the ground, looking at the almost cooked rabbit meat. Crackle. There was still water vapor in the firewood, and at this moment, it emitted a slight explosive sound. Chi Chun seemed to feel that it was a little too quiet, so he said, "Guess what happened to me today? After you hear this, I guarantee that you'll say that I'm good." What is it? Tell us. The other workers were intrigued. There's no rush. I just happen to have something to say as well, Chen Fei suddenly said. Do you know how I managed to catch this rabbit today? Everyone couldn't help but turn to look at Chen Fei. The tempting fragrance of meat wafted into their noses, making them feel more and more restless. Chen Fei stood up and looked at everyone. Rabbits are quick-witted. They will immediately run away at the slightest sign of trouble. Therefore, when you see the rabbit, don't make a sound and slowly approach it. Then, a bright light flashed in the ruined temple. Chi Chun looked at Chen Fei in a daze. In the next moment, Chi Chun's head rolled off his shoulders and onto the ground. Ah! The other workers cried out in shock and looked at Chen Fei in disbelief. Chen Fei had killed someone right in front of them. Most importantly, they had no idea why Chen Fei wanted to kill Chi Chun. This was the most terrifying thing. Chen Fei didn't say anything. He looked at Chi Chun's neck, and it didn't look like how a normal decapitated body should look like. Everyone, run! Chen Fei shouted loudly. Before he left, he used a chopper to pick up the money bag at Chi Chun's waist and rushed out of the dilapidated temple without looking back. Kikik! A peal of dark laughter echoed in the ruined temple. The other workers seemed to have woken up from a dream. When they saw the headless body standing up on its own, they immediately understood something was amiss and ran out of the ruined temple with fear on their faces. Chen Fei's expression was solemn. He didn't expect that he would really run into a monster on Mount Pingyuan. Fortunately, He had broken through to the skin toughening realm during the day, which allowed him to sense this kind of evil aura to some extent. Otherwise, if he had continued to stay in the dilapidated temple, he had no idea what would have happened later. The most important thing now was to return to Pingyang County overnight. In Pingyang County, strange things rarely happened, and it was rumored that there was a treasure suppressed in the county government office. Chen Fei didn't know if it was true or not. Now, he only wanted to hurry back so that it would be safer. Chen Fei, my neck hurts. That slash of yours hurt me so much. A faint voice came from behind, and Chen Fei's expression changed. Wasn't it said that after practicing martial arts, one's vitality would be exuberant, and the evil things would chase after others with weaker vitality first? How did it come to him so quickly? Unless all the other workers were dead. Chen Fei ran with all his might. After reaching the skin toughening realm, his physical strength and speed had greatly increased. If it were an ordinary person chasing after him, he would have shaken them off by now. However, no matter how Chen Fei ran, the cold aura behind him kept pulling at him. The Extreme Mountain Fist Hall said that a warrior's chi and blood can fight against the evil entity. But now that I have reached a certain cultivation level, I know very little about how to mobilize my blood and energy. Chen Fei looked at the interface, which showed that he had yet to learn the Extreme Mountain Fist. At the same time, he took out Chi Chun's money bag. There were actually more than 2 taels of silver inside, which was really beyond Chen Fei's expectations. Interface, simplify Extreme Mountain Fist. Simplifying Extreme Mountain Fist. Simplification successful. Extreme Mountain Fist, waving hands. Waving his hand. Before Chen Fei could understand what he meant by waving his hand, the comprehension of the Extreme Mountain Fist suddenly appeared in Chen Fei's mind. Moreover, all kinds of insights came at an extremely fast speed. Chen Fei instinctively looked at the interface. Cultivation Technique, Extreme Mountain Fist, Beginner 23/100. In the blink of an eye, the number 23 became 24 and continued to jump up. Chen Fei looked at his arms, which were swinging vigorously as he ran, realizing that the simplification was as effective as the breathing technique. Chen Fei, do you know where my head went? Chi Chun's voice sounded directly behind Chen Fei's ear. It was as if he was right next to Chen Fei's back. He could even feel the air that exhaled as he spoke. Chen Fei's expression changed, and he threw a punch backward. The various mysteries of the Extreme Mountain Fist circulated in his mind, and the temperature of Chen Fei's fist rose rapidly. A muffled sound rang out as Chi Chun screamed. The place where his chest had been hit was now charred black. I stand a chance against it? Chen Fei's eyes lit up slightly. He didn't run away. Instead, he held a chopper and charged at Chi Chun. After learning the basics of the Extreme Mountain Fist, Chen Fei already roughly understood the usage of chi and blood. At this moment, he injected it into the chopper in his hand. With a few slashes, Chi Chun's limbs were cleanly severed. How can you be so strong? Chi Chun screamed miserably, but Chen Fei's expression remained unchanged as he continued to swing his chopper. Don't kill me. If you kill me, you won't be able to survive either. Chen Fei's movements paused slightly. Chi Chun was definitely just a small fry. There might really be something evil behind it. However, if he did not kill Chi Chun now, would Chi Chun spare him? Stop. I'll tell you how to survive. Chi Chun shouted, but what greeted him was Chen Fei's blade. At first, Chi Chun could still shout, but as his flesh melted, he could no longer say anything. At a certain moment, Chen Fei, who was swinging his blade mechanically, discovered that Chi Chun had already turned into a pile of ashes. So this is how we kill the evil things. Chen Fei muttered to himself. Just as he was about to turn around, he suddenly felt a sharp pain on his wrist. Chen Fei raised his wrist, and a thin black line appeared there. Qianfei did not have time to think about the sudden appearance of this thin line as he ran toward Pingying County. It was an hour later before Qianfei finally saw the city walls of Pingying County. Chapter 5. Past. The city gates of Pingying County had already been closed, making it impossible to enter the city at this time. Fortunately, there were some merchants outside the city who had set up camp and were resting because they could not enter the city. Qianfei rubbed his hands together by the fire and listened to the low voices around him. His nervous mood slowly relaxed. Too many things had happened today, and if it weren't for his breakthrough in strength, he would be lying straight on Mount Pingying. Thinking of this, Qianfei couldn't help but glance at his interface. Cultivation Technique, Extreme Mountain Fist, Master 307/1000, Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique, Great Completion. Cultivation Realm, Skin Toughening, 2/1000. The Extreme Mountain Fist had already reached the level of proficiency, and some of the insights related to the fist technique were still echoing in Qianfei's mind. It could only be said that the simplification function was really powerful. The progress of the skin toughening realm hasn't changed. Qianfei furrowed his brow as he looked at his cultivation level. Before he broke through, the perfected extreme mountain breathing technique could increase his cultivation by about 10 points. Half a day had already passed since then, but he had only increased by 1 point. Has my cultivation level advanced to the point where the extreme mountain breathing technique can't keep up anymore? Qianfei couldn't help but wonder if that was the case. After thinking about it for a moment, he concluded that it was probably the case. After all, this breathing technique was very basic, and the basics could be taught to the students of the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall without any restrictions. If it were some kind of advanced breathing technique, it wouldn't be something that could be exchanged for with such a small tuition fee. I'll observe for a few more days to see how much my cultivation level can be improved with the extreme mountain breathing technique. Qianfei shifted his gaze away and decided not to sleep. He had just encountered a monster, and even though he had arrived at the foot of Pingying County, he did not dare to let his guard down. Qianfei also did not waste any time. He sat beside the bonfire and waved his hand gently. As he waved his hands, insights about the extreme mountain fist slowly appeared in Qianfei's mind. Qianfei couldn't help but immerse himself in the feeling of being rewarded for his hard work. The people around Qianfei looked at him strangely as he kept waving his hand. They couldn't understand what he was doing, and some even distanced themselves from him, thinking he might be sick. Lost in concentration, time passed quickly for Qianfei. Soon enough, the sky brightened, and the city gate of Pingying County opened. He followed the crowd into the city and headed straight for Qingzheng Medical Hall. Kui Sanja, the owner of the medical hall, had an ugly expression when he saw Qianfei. "So, you're the only one who survived last night while everyone else died?" he asked. Although the workers were not highly valuable, they were still assets of the medical hall, and the loss of a dozen workers could pose a problem. Not to mention the added trouble of not being able to harvest the medicinal herbs they were sent to collect, which could lead to further losses for the hall. "I don't know if the others are dead or alive, but I didn't see anyone else at the city gate last night," Qianfei replied softly. "Everyone else is dead." "How did you manage to survive?" asked Pu Liao, the guard of the medical hall, with a hint of reproach in his voice. "I broke through to the skin toughening realm and escaped the calamity," Qianfei answered as he threw a punch, creating a dull sound as it hit the air. The surrounding people were surprised by the force behind Qianfei's punch. It was not something an ordinary person could unleash. They were even more surprised that one of the workers had managed to reach the skin toughening realm. It was not an easy feat, and it required a certain amount of martial arts talent. "Well done," Kui Sanja nodded, slightly relieved that the skin toughening realm worker could offset the loss of the other workers. He could easily recruit new workers, but finding martial artists in the skin toughening realm was not as easy. They were more valuable than ordinary workers. "I'll report this to the main family. As for you, "You'll be a guard in the medical hall from now on," Kui Sanja announced. Kui Sanja turned to Pu Liao and said, "Now that you've left your servant status, you're qualified to come into contact with some of the legacies of Qingzhen Medical Hall. Pu Liao, teach him a few of our Qingzhen breathing techniques and moves." "All right." Pu Liao nodded. He glanced at Chen Fei and didn't say anything else. Chen Fei couldn't help but smile. Before he came back, he had considered whether to continue staying in Qingzhen Medical Hall or go to the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall. Having reached the skin toughening realm, Chen Fei had the right to choose. The only thing to consider was the pros and cons of both. If he stayed in Qingzhen Medical Hall, he would be able to access the medical hall's heritage. Although it was definitely not profound, it was still better than the extreme mountain breathing technique. However, if he stayed in Qingzhen Medical Hall, he would still be a worker, and his freedom would be restricted. Going to the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall would provide enough freedom. It was equivalent to a half-sect relationship, and the inheritance there should not be inferior to the medical hall. However, he would have to pay a high termination fee should he leave the medical hall. Chen Fei had reached the skin toughening realm in nearly 4 months. Such talent was considered mediocre in the Extreme Mountain Fist Hall. The Extreme Mountain Fist Hall would not pay the termination fee for Chen Fei, and Chen Fei himself did not have the money. The main reason why Chen Fei decided to stay in the medical hall was that he could learn a certain amount of medical skills and alchemy. This was what Chen Fei valued most. Kui Sanja and the others asked Chen Fei a few more questions before leaving. "I don't have much time recently. Come and find me in a few days. I'll teach you the cultivation techniques then." Pu Liao walked up to Chen Fei and said calmly before turning to leave. After everyone left, Chen Fei heaved a sigh of relief. This hurdle was finally over. If he didn't have the cultivation of the skin toughening realm, he wouldn't have been able to escape from this scolding. Because he had some value, he was exempted. The medical hall arranged a separate room for Chen Fei. Although it was still very small, it was a world of difference compared to the original treatment. Chen Fei was quite satisfied because he did not have to worry about revealing anything when cultivating like this. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Other than standing guard in the medical hall to prevent people from causing trouble, Chen Fei spent most of his time cultivating in his room. 3 days was not a long time, but it was enough for Chen Fei to cultivate Extreme Mountain Fist to the level of perfection. With his cultivation in the skin toughening realm and the perfection of the Extreme Mountain Fist, Chen Fei's current combat strength had increased by more than half. Even in the skin toughening realm, Chen Fei's current strength was not considered weak. The only thing that Chen Fei was not satisfied with was the growth of his cultivation. In 3 days, the experience points of the skin toughening realm had only increased by 3 points. It was 1 point a day, with a total of 1,000 experience points. That meant that if Chen Fei relied solely on the extreme mountain breathing technique, he would need 3 years to advance to the next stage. Chapter 6. Bone Gangrene. This speed was too slow. After all, Chen Fei was not young anymore. The older he was, the harder it was for his cultivation to increase in the future. More importantly, after Chen Fei killed Qi Chun, the black line on his wrist had been growing thicker and thicker. Status: gangrene. A day ago, this new change appeared on the interface. The most direct effect Chen Fei felt was that his stamina was beginning to deplete at an accelerated rate. After breaking through to the skin toughening realm, Chen Fei's physical strength and senses improved a lot. However, with the addition of this gangrene, Chen Fei discovered that his physical strength was actually not much different from the original state of an ordinary person. In fact, it was even worse. Chen Fei didn't dare to let his guard down in this situation. He immediately consulted some doctors in the medical hall and finally got a result. This was a mark left behind by the evil entity. If the evil entity were destroyed, the mark would naturally disappear. It would also disappear if his own cultivation became strong enough to directly erase this imprint. Even if he couldn't, he could still take pills that strengthened his qi and blood to resist this kind of yin energy. Chen Fei naturally didn't dare to look for that evil entity. He couldn't afford to eat medicinal pills either. The only thing left was to increase his cultivation. Moreover, Chen Fei dared not let the medical hall know that he had been marked. God only knew if the medical hall would find it troublesome and give up on him. It's time to look for Pu Liao. In the evening, Chen Fei came to Pu Liao's door and knocked lightly. Who is it? Pu Liao's hoarse voice sounded. It's me, sir. Chen Fei whispered. What is it? The door opened, and Pu Liao looked down at Chen Fei, not showing any intention of letting him in. Sir, do you have the time to teach me the techniques of Qingzhen Medical Hall now? Oh, you're here for this. Pu Liao looked at Chen Fei, who was empty-handed, and his eyes couldn't help but show some dissatisfaction. He couldn't help but raise his voice. Didn't I tell you a few days ago that I've been busy recently and that I'll teach you when I'm free? Don't you understand that? When will you be free, sir? There are so many things to do. How would I know? When I have the time, I'll naturally call you. Pu Liao seemed impatient. He waved his hand and said, all right, if there's nothing else, then go back first. I still have things to do, so forgive me for not entertaining you. As soon as he finished speaking, Pu Liao turned around and entered the house, closing the door. However, before the door could be closed, it was blocked by a hand. Are you courting death? Pu Liao widened his eyes and glared at Chen Fei viciously. Sir, I thought about it. You've been busy recently, so I shouldn't disturb you. I wonder if there are any secret cultivation techniques that I can practice on my own, Chen Fei said calmly, as if he didn't see Pu Liao's expression. Chen Fei finally understood today that Pu Liao wanted money. However, Chen Fei had only been a guard for 3 days, so would he get the money? Even the salary of the guards was only 5 taels of silver a month. How could Pu Liao be interested in those 5 taels of silver? Since that was the case, he might as well make things clear. You want to practice by yourself? Ha ha ha. Pu Liao laughed loudly, his eyes full of mockery. Chen Fei had taken 4 months to break through to the skin toughening realm. His talent was almost at the bottom among martial artists. He actually wanted to rely on his talent to practice higher martial arts techniques. He was simply dreaming and did not know his bounds. All right, I have a cultivation technique here. Return it to me before noon tomorrow. If you can't learn it by then, don't say that I, Pu Liao, bullied you. Pu Liao returned to his room and took out 2 secret manuals, throwing them into Chen Fei's hands. He sneered and slammed the door shut. Some people watching from afar looked at Chen Fei's back and could not help but shake their heads slightly. To think that a new guard actually dared to clash with an old guard like Pu Liao. And now, he wanted to practice martial arts on his own. If martial arts techniques were so easy to cultivate, then there wouldn't be a need for masters. Without guidance, the intricacies of a cultivation technique could easily lead people astray. In the end, they would find that they had wasted their time and achieved nothing. What was even more terrifying was that those who cultivated wrongly might not be able to advance in their entire lifetime and might even suffer internal injuries. In their eyes, Chen Fei was just a fool who didn't know anything. Chen Fei did not care about the gazes of the people around him and returned to his room with the secret manuals in his hands. 2 hours later, Chen Fei put down the secret manual and began to practice the 2 cultivation techniques. After another hour, Chen Fei looked at the interface. Cultivation techniques: Clear Wind Sword, Beginner 1/100, Wind Suspending Force, Beginner 1/100, Extreme Mountain Fist, Perfection, Extreme Mountain Breathing Technique, Perfection. Relying on the foundation of the perfected Extreme Mountain Fist and the breathing technique, Chen Fei easily cultivated the two cultivation techniques to the beginner level. The clear wind sword was a technique to fight against enemies, while the wind suspending force was used to increase one's cultivation. The interface reflected that these two cultivation techniques could still be simplified. The only thing was that the cost of the refinement was a little high, costing 10 taels of silver. Chen Fei didn't have 10 taels of silver. He only had 2 taels of silver now. It was far from enough for the simplified version. Chen Fei looked at the perfected breathing technique and then at the wind suspending force. He blinked and subconsciously wanted to merge the breathing technique into the wind suspending force. In the next moment, the two cultivation techniques disappeared at the same time, and a brand new cultivation technique appeared. Wind suspending breathing technique, Master 107/1000. It's really possible. There was some joy in Chen Fei's eyes. He was merely following his instincts just now. He did not expect that a cultivation technique after perfection could really be fused with other cultivation techniques. However, if one thought about it, it made sense. After all, the perfection of the cultivation technique meant that one had already mastered everything about the cultivation technique and knew everything. Naturally, one could integrate it into other cultivation techniques. This way, even if Chen Fei's cultivation increased in the future, he wouldn't waste any technique he couldn't keep up with. He could completely combine them with new techniques and turn them into even more powerful cultivation techniques. The extreme mountain fist had also fused with the clear wind sword. This time, Chen Fei had intentionally preserved the essence of the clear wind sword, and only incorporated some of the methods of exerting force from the extreme mountain fist. Clear mountain sword, Master 13/1000. The originally elegant and unrestrained clear wind sword had become a more complex sword technique, but its power was not weak at all. It had even improved a little. An hour later, after trying out both new cultivation techniques, Chen Fei's face was filled with joy, but he was still a little dissatisfied. He was happy because the two new cultivation techniques were a little stronger than the original ones. If he cultivated them to the perfection level, they would definitely far surpass the previous ones. After all, he had only just mastered them. However, he was dissatisfied because after trying them a few times, he realized that the proficiency of the two cultivation techniques didn't increase at all. If he continued to cultivate them without simplifying them, he estimated that he would only gain 1 or 2 points of improvement per day, and that was with the contribution of his previous techniques integrated into them. This was probably the limit of Chen Fei's current body's talent. If he wanted to break through this limit, it would be difficult for him to do so in a gradual, systematic way. Money, money, money. Chen Fei's brows were tightly locked. Various ways to earn money floated through his mind, making it difficult for him to decide on one. Chapter 7. Noob. The next day, after Chen Fei finished his guard duty, he went to look for the alchemist in the medical hall. You want the formula for the vitality pill? Zheng Difang looked at Chen Fei in surprise. Can I? Chen Fei cupped his hands and asked. After spending the whole of yesterday thinking about it, Chen Fei finally decided to try alchemy. After all, this was also one of his original intentions of staying in the medical hall. As for medicine, it was a complete system, and Chen Fei didn't know if the interface could simplify it. Even if it were possible, it would probably require a large sum, and Chen Fei was still short of money. Thus, alchemy was more suitable. As long as Chen Fei learned how to refine a type of medicinal pill, he would have a relatively stable income. After that, he would look for higher-level medicinal pills, forming a virtuous cycle. You're the medical hall's guard. It's not a big deal to give you the formula for the vitality pill. Zheng Difang nodded. However, I can only give you the most common formula for the vitality pill. It doesn't include some of the unique techniques of the medical hall. And if you want to start refining it, you have to pay for the herbs yourself. The medical hall won't provide them for free. I understand. Chen Fei nodded. Before proving that he had the ability to refine pills, the medical hall would not provide medicinal herbs for free. Even if it were proven that he could refine pills, it would still depend on the quality of the final pill. If quality were subpar, the medical hall would not accept it. Okay, take it. You can return it to me in 3 days. Zheng Difang stood up and rummaged through the cabinet behind him. He took out a booklet and handed it to Chen Fei. Thank you, Elder Zheng. Chen Fei cupped his hands in thanks. No worries. Zheng Difang waved his hand and ignored Chen Fei. Chen Fei was also tactful and left the pharmacy quietly. Zheng Difang looked at Chen Fei's back and shook his head slightly. Zheng Difang had seen many people like Chen Fei who wanted to learn alchemy too as a means to possess a skill. However, there were very few who could truly learn alchemy and refine pills that were up to standards. In Zheng Difang's opinion, Chen Fei should be one of those mediocre people. Chen Fei returned to his room and seriously flipped through the pill formula in his hand. After some time, Chen Fei put down the pill formula and closed his eyes, recalling the information he had just read. The contents of the pill recipe were not complicated. It only introduced the medicinal ingredients needed for refining, as well as some medicinal properties of the medicinal ingredients and matters that needed to be taken note of when refining. The pill recipe was only a few thin pages, so many things were explained very briefly. If he wanted to rely on such a pill formula to refine the vitality pill successfully, he would have to fail at least dozens or even hundreds of times before he had a chance. Moreover, success this way was only the case if one had considerable talent. If one didn't have the talent in this department, even if they failed hundreds of times, they would probably not be able to pass. This was because alchemy was actually the same as martial arts and was especially dependent on a person's talent. Sometimes, if you can do it. If you can't, you can't. Alchemy, vitality pill, uninitiated. A new note appeared on the interface, and at the same time, a new simplified message flashed. Chen Fei could not help but smile because the simplification for vitality pill only required 1 tael of silver. Chen Fei chose the vitality pill as his first pill concoction technique because he was interested in the foundation of this pill. The more basic it was, the less silver it would cost to simplify it. This was what Chen Fei's recent experience taught him. Moreover, although the vitality pill was basic, it had a large audience. Whether it was those martial artists who had just come into contact with martial arts or those in the skin toughening realm like Chen Fei, the vitality pill had extraordinary effects. It could make one's qi and blood flourish, allowing one to cultivate martial arts faster and better. Even those in the higher realm of the body tempering realm would buy vitality pills when they were short of money. The effect would still be there, albeit slightly weaker. Thus, if Chen Fei could refine vitality pills, he would not have to worry about selling them. After all, there would always be martial artists at the bottom. Stats interface, simplify vitality pill. Vitality pill is being simplified, success in the refinement, vitality pill, fried pork liver. Chen Fei blinked his eyes and almost thought that he was seeing things. After the vitality pill was simplified, it actually became stir-fried vegetables, and it was even stir-fried pork liver. Was there a necessary connection between the two? Both of them could replenish blood, and both of them needed fire. Chen Fei didn't quite understand what the interface meant with the simplification. However, the change from refining pills to cooking boosted Chen Fei's confidence. Most people knew how to stir-fry. It was just a difference in taste. Chen Fei planned to go to the market to buy some pig liver tomorrow, and rumors about him started to circulate in the medical hall. There was nothing particularly interesting. The news that Chen Fei had taken the vitality pill recipe from Zheng Difang spread and became the topic of many people's gossip. 2 days ago, Chen Fei had a conflict with Pu Liao, and people thought he was a dummy. Now that he had turned around to take the pill formula and deluded himself into thinking that he could become an alchemist tickled many people. Not only were the guards mocking Chen Fei, even the workers who heard about these two events felt that Chen Fei didn't know his own limits. Those workers were originally a little jealous and envious of Chen Fei, who was also a worker and had now become a guard. Now that something like that had happened, they were naturally happy to mock him. Instead of practicing martial arts properly, he still dreams of becoming an alchemist. Is alchemy something a noob like him can think of achieving? He simply doesn't know what's good for him. On the table, Pu Liao threw a few peanuts into his mouth. His tone was extremely disdainful of Chen Fei. It's because he was a bumpkin in the past, so he's desperately trying to climb up now that he has the opportunity. It's a pity that he doesn't know that sometimes, he can only be a noob for the rest of his life. His companion laughed. I originally thought that he would be more sensible, and it's not like I can't guide him. In the end, he actually asked me for the secret manual directly. If we weren't in the medical hall at that time, I would have slapped him, Pu Liao said coldly. Brother Pu is really good at self-restraint. If it were the few of us, we probably wouldn't have been able to hold back. Let's not talk about him. He's just a joke. Pu Liao waved his hand. There will be many ways to deal with him in the future. Did he really think there would be no strings attached to the secret manuals I had passed him? The rumors in the clinic had yet to reach Chen Fei's ears. At this moment, Chen Fei was in an abandoned courtyard, cooking pig liver over a fire. The pork liver was very fresh and was all freshly bought from the market. Chen Fei planned to eat it himself after the stir-frying was done. After all, it was also considered a delicacy. After becoming a guard, the food provided by the medical hall had become much better. There was some minced meat in every meal and some good meat every other day. However, to martial artists, especially martial artists like Chen Fei, who were extremely strapped, every bit of meat counted. In just a short time, traces of meat fragrance started to waft from the pot. In his previous life, Chen Fei actually knew how to cook. Although he could only make some home-cooked dishes, it was naturally not a problem for him to deal with stir-fried pork liver. Stir-fry, remove from the pot, and plate. The steaming hot stir-fried pork liver was completed just like that. Chen Fei looked at the interface. Alchemy, Vitality Pill, Beginner 1/100. Chapter 8. Talent. The experience value of the Vitality Pill had indeed increased by 1 point. Chen Fei heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He had indeed gained more insights regarding the refinement of the Vitality Pill. He finished the stir-fried pork liver in a few bites since he didn't put many in the pot to start with. Anyway, the interface didn't say how much pork liver to use, so Chen Fei naturally picked up less. According to the amount he had bought previously, Chen Fei could still cook pork liver dozens of times. However, he was still unable to cultivate the Vitality Pill to the master level after dozens of times. Chen Fei carefully cut off a bit of pig liver and threw it into the pot. Chen Fei wanted to see how much fried pork liver he needed before the interface recognized it. A moment later, a fingernail-sized stir-fried pork liver was served, and a smile appeared on Chen Fei's face as a little insight into the Vitality Pill appeared in his mind. Chen Fei looked at the remaining pig liver. It would be enough for 100 practices. Full of motivation, Chen Fei immersed himself in the process of frying the pig liver, completely forgetting himself. After 2 hours, the pork liver was all fried. Chen Fei was also a little tired of eating. After all, it was all stir-fried pork liver, and Chen Fei's cooking skills were indeed quite average. However, these were all secondary. The most important thing was that the interface reflected that the Vitality Pill had already reached the master level. Being at the proficient level of refining Vitality Pills could already guarantee that every batch of Vitality Pills would be successfully refined. There wouldn't be a situation where the furnace would explode, rendering the pills useless. It was just the quality of the Vitality Pills that could not be guaranteed, but if they were sold, there shouldn't be many problems. Should I sell it to the medical center or other shops in the market? Chen Fei muttered to himself slightly. The requirements for guards were undoubtedly much less restrictive compared to workers. The medical hall wouldn't demand that the extra income they made go to the medical hall. If they did, the guards would probably run away. However, if the guard had something precious, it was best to sell it to the medical hall. The medical hall would not mistreat the guard. However, something like the vitality pill was definitely not a precious item. Chen Fei hesitated. Would it attract unwanted attention if he revealed his alchemy skills? I'm going to sell to the medical hall. After thinking for a moment, Chen Fei made up his mind. It was just a mere vitality pill, and he had to show that he was of a certain value to make the medical hall pay more attention to him. Chen Fei was now a completely peripheral person in the medical center. This world was very dangerous. Chen Fei had already experienced it on Mount Pingyuan. If there were any dangerous missions in the future, they would definitely let the cannon fodder go first. People on the edge easily became cannon fodder. I'll show them the entry-level vitality pills first. After a while, I'll show them the expert-level ones. That way, it would be more acceptable. Chen Fei decided on a strategy in his heart. After cleaning up the spot, he rushed back to the medical hall and found Zheng Difang in the alchemy room. Just leave the pill formula on the table. Zheng Difang looked up at Chen Fei and then looked down at the medical book in his hand. He thought that Chen Fei had come back to return the pill formula. Elder Zheng, I've been trying to concoct a vitality pill for the past 2 days, and I've succeeded. Chen Fei placed the pill formula properly and said with a smile. Zheng Difang frowned slightly and looked at Chen Fei with a hint of dissatisfaction. I believe I told you a few days ago that the medical hall won't provide you with medicinal herbs for free. Yes, I'll pay for a set of herbs for the vitality pill and refine it on the spot. I hope Elder Zheng can give me some pointers. Chen Fei cupped his hands. I don't have time. Find someone else to give you pointers. Zheng Difang pursed his lips. This kid was simply baffling. After looking at the pill formula for 2 days, he actually said that he could refine the vitality pill. Who did he think he was? You still want me to watch you refine it? Do you think I'm so free? Moreover, someone had used this method a few years ago to get close to them. In the end, when they refined it, the ending was too tragic. As such, Zheng Difang did not even want to bother with Chen Fei. Initially, he felt that it was not easy for Chen Fei to be promoted from an errand boy to a guard. He had a trace of pity for him, but at this moment, it had all disappeared. Elder Zheng, there's no need for me to joke about this matter. I also have no intention of teasing you. Chen Fei looked at Zheng Difang's expression and guessed what he was thinking. He could not help but say sincerely, when I refine it later, if Elder Zheng sees anything wrong with my technique, you can stop me at any time. Is that okay? Zheng Difang was an elder at Qingzheng Medical Hall, so no one would doubt his approval. If Chen Fei wanted to gain a foothold in the medical hall and obtain more resources, befriending Zheng Difang was a good way to go. Moreover, Zheng Difang was famous for being cold on the outside but warm on the inside. He was willing to support juniors with potential. Otherwise, Chen Fei would not have done this. Zheng Difang looked at Chen Fei. Seeing Chen Fei's serious expression, he could not help but soften a little. All right, I'll watch you refine it once. I want to see what skill you have. Thank you, Elder Zheng. Chen Fei couldn't help but smile. He took out a set of medicinal ingredients for the vitality pill from the bag on his back and sat in front of a pill furnace. Chen Fei clumsily cleaned the pill furnace, started a fire, and put in the medicinal herbs. Zheng Difang frowned slightly. Chen Fei's technique was too raw. It didn't look like he knew how to refine pills at all. However, when he thought about how the other party had only obtained the pill formula 2 days ago, it only made sense. At least there were no problems with the basic steps. The first few steps were unfamiliar, but Chen Fei was still calm. A master-level vitality pill was equivalent to an alchemist who had refined pills for a few years. From the moment the medicinal ingredients were placed into the pill furnace, Chen Fei's had a good grip on the situation. Every change in the pill furnace was within Chen Fei's expectations. There were only a few types of medicinal herbs used to refine qi and blood, so the medicinal properties did not change much. By grasping these changes, he would be able to grasp the results of every batch, guaranteeing pills. However, Chen Fei had no intention of displaying the standard of a master. That was a little too much. Thus, when some changes occurred in the pill furnace, Chen Fei deliberately did not adjust it in time. This would affect the quality of the pill, but it would not cause the furnace to explode. They were small mistakes that could be tolerated. Zheng Difang looked at Chen Fei. At first, he was suspicious, but later, he was slightly surprised. Now, he was even more stunned. Of course, Chen Fei's refining process still had many flaws. If these flaws appeared in other senior alchemists, they would be criticized and pointed out. However, for a newcomer like Chen Fei, who had just come into contact with pill formulas, it was completely normal. Chen Fei's performance at this moment was already quite shocking in Zheng Difang's eyes. 15 minutes later, as the lid of the pill furnace was opened, a medicinal fragrance wafted into the pill refining room. Zheng Difang couldn't help but take a step forward and look at the vitality pill that Chen Fei handed over. The pill was not round, and there were some unfused medicinal herbs. However, this did not affect the fact that it was a vitality pill. Zheng Difang raised his head and looked at Chen Fei seriously. The first thought that came to his mind was that Chen Fei had refined vitality pills in the past. However, he denied that thought immediately. How could an errand boy have refined it before? So, did that mean that Chen Fei really had an extremely strong talent in alchemy? Chapter 9. A child worth teaching. Refine another batch of vitality pills. Zheng Difang instructed the errand boy to bring a set of medicinal herbs to refine a vitality pill and handed it to Chen Fei. Chen Fei did not refuse. He cleaned the pill furnace and simply processed the medicinal ingredients before throwing them into the pill furnace. Compared to his earlier unfamiliarity, Chen Fei's movements were now a little more skillful. At the same time, Chen Fei corrected one or two of the pill refining mistakes that he had deliberately shown earlier. Zheng Difang's eyes lit up when he saw these two corrections. As time passed, a faint medicinal fragrance wafted out of the pill furnace. 15 minutes passed very quickly. Chen Fei opened the lid of the furnace and took out the vitality pill. Compared to the first vitality pill, the pill this time was a little smoother. There were also fewer medicinal herbs that had not been fused. In the eyes of laymen, this vitality pill might not be much different from the previous one, but in Zheng Difang's eyes, the difference between the two was huge. Zheng Difang looked at the vitality pill in his hand and then looked up at Chen Fei. He could not hide the admiration in his eyes. People were always willing to believe what they saw, and Chen Fei had refined 2 batches of vitality pills in front of Zheng Difang, and his progress was obvious. This proved that Chen Fei's talent in alchemy was indeed rare. Zheng Difang had been in Qingzheng Medical Hall for so many years, and there were very few people who could compare to Chen Fei's talent. Of course, at this moment, Chen Fei could not be said to be a pill-refining genius. After all, it was just a simple vitality pill. However, he was good enough for Qingzheng Medical Hall to train him and allow him to test his limits. If Chen Fei could still successfully refine other pills like the vitality pill, then Qingzheng Medical Hall would really have found a treasure. You're not bad. I didn't expect you to really be able to successfully refine the vitality pill just 2 days after seeing the pill formula. Zheng Difang smiled warmly and said, but don't be arrogant. There are still many flaws in these 2 vitality pills. You still need to practice hard to refine them better. Thank you for your affirmation, Elder Zheng. Chen Fei stood up and cupped his hands. It will be a waste of your talents to continue being a guard. I will talk to Steward Kui so that you can refine the pills here in the future. You'll first have to figure out the vitality pill before you refine other pills in the future. Thank you for your recommendation, Elder Zheng. Chen Fei's face could not help but reveal a smile. His goal had finally been achieved. Now, he finally had a source of silver. 2 hours later, Chen Fei refined another batch of vitality pills in front of Kui Sanja, which made Kui Sanja overjoyed. Although Zheng Difang was the one who put in the recommendation, Kui Sanja couldn't believe that a guard, who was only an odd job worker, could refine pills. But now, seeing was believing. No matter how unbelievable it was, he had to admit that Chen Fei had talent in alchemy, and was quite outstanding. In that case, Kui Sanja had no reason to reject Zheng Difang's original proposal. The news of Chen Fei becoming an alchemist spread throughout the entire medical hall in less than half a day, causing everyone's jaws to drop. Alchemy was a skill that required great talent. For example, if 1 in 10 people could learn martial arts, then perhaps 1 in 100 people would not even be able to learn alchemy. Therefore, in Qingzheng Medical Hall, the status of an alchemist was far from what a guard could compare to. Therefore, Chen Fei's status in the medical hall had increased again. He had gone from a worker to an alchemist. In a few days, he had achieved a 2-level jump, which made many people envious. Moreover, they also heard that Chen Fei's talent in alchemy was quite outstanding, which astounded Zheng Difang and Kui Sanja. Their astonishment made sense. Chen Fei was able to successfully refine a pill in just 2 days just by looking at the pill formula and fumbling around on his own. If this talent was not considered outstanding, then what was? Previously, many people were waiting to see Chen Fei make a fool of himself, and they even treated Chen Fei as a meal conversation. Now, they didn't dare to talk about him that way, afraid that Chen Fei would hear it. The current Chen Fei naturally did not have much power, but who knew how far Chen Fei could grow in the future? It was not worth it to offend such a person just for the sake of a moment of satisfaction. Now, not only could they not afford to offend him, they had to think of ways to curry favor with him. What if Chen Fei really made a meteoric rise in the future? Damn it, this bumpkin's luck is actually so good. At the table, Pu Liao smashed the cup in his hand heavily on the table, making a dull sound. I heard that Elder Zheng thinks highly of him, a guard said in a low voice. He didn't dare to talk casually about Chen Fei with Pu Liao like before. Humph. Pu Liao snorted and looked at the people around him. Seeing that they didn't agree with him, he stood up and left. He didn't have to drink that wine. The more he drank, the more annoyed he felt. The other guards looked at each other, not knowing what to say. In the medical hall, alchemists were indeed of a higher status than the guards. Pu Liao could ignore Chen Fei to a certain extent by relying on his experience and his cultivation in the body tempering realm, but they couldn't do that. The next day, Chen Fei did not stand guard in the front hall. Instead, he was refining pills seriously in the pill room. Zheng Difang stood at the side and personally corrected Chen Fei's mistakes in the refining process. Chen Fei was a little surprised. He did not expect Zheng Difang to think so highly of him. It was probably the talent he displayed that impressed Zheng Difang. Although he had used too much effort, the result was satisfactory. Chen Fei couldn't reject Zheng Difang's good intentions. He listened to Zheng Difang's explanation carefully and corrected 1 or 2 of those mistakes in the next pill refinement. When Zheng Fifang saw his teaching was effective, he became more and more excited as he taught, and he began to glow. Being a teacher was like this. When one met a genius disciple, the other party would know it at once. There was no need to say it a second time. That feeling was quite a sense of accomplishment. It had been too many years since Zheng Difang had experienced this feeling. At this moment, he was even happier and prouder when he saw Chen Fei refine pills better time and time again than when he refined pills of high difficulty himself. Very good. All the medicinal ingredients have been fused into this vitality pill. Although the fusion isn't complete enough, it has improved a lot compared to before. Zheng Difang looked at the pill in his hand with a smile on his face. He looked at Chen Fei with satisfaction. In his heart, Zheng Difang had already treated Chen Fei as half a disciple. Elder Zheng taught me well. Chen Fei flattered him immediately, making Zheng Difang's smile even brighter. A child worth teaching. He was a child worth teaching. Chen Fei smiled. Although what he said just now was flattery, Zheng Difang's level was indeed high. The interface showed that the progress of the vitality pill had increased by more than 10 points. This was proof. Chapter 10. Matryoshka. In the next few days, Zheng Difang guided Chen Fei on his pill refining technique. After Chen Fei hid his skills for a few days, he revealed his proficiency in the vitality pill technique. Zheng Difang laughed out loud and felt a weight lift off his shoulders. He even patted Chen Fei's shoulder a few times. At this stage, I have nothing more to teach you regarding medicinal pills like the vitality pill. Next, it will depend on your comprehension during the usual refining process. Zheng Difang's skills in refining vitality pills were naturally not only at the master level. However, after reaching the master level, one basically had no problems with the refining technique. The only thing one had to take note of was some minor adjustments in the fire. This kind of adjustment was difficult to express in words. It required the alchemist to comprehend innately and put it into practice. Moreover, the master-level vitality pills could already be sold on the shelves normally. In other words, Chen Fei could start earning money. According to the agreement with Qingzhen Medical Hall, Chen Fei could take 30% of the remaining profits after deducting the cost of the medicinal herbs required to make the vitality pills that Chen Fei refined every month. Was it too little? There would definitely be a lot. Chen Fei was quite satisfied with this result. After all, Chen Fei only needed to refine pills. The other things like herbs, shops, pill furnaces, and selling them had nothing to do with Chen Fei. With Qingzhen Medical Hall backing him, Chen Fei only needed to refine pills seriously. It was probably also the case where Zheng Difang must have played a big role in securing Chen Fei this ratio. It was the only reason why Qingzhen Medical Hall could give such treatment. Of course, the other alchemists' share was not much different. After all, alchemists are precious. If you don't treat them well, they will run away. Alchemists were different from a guard. Although it was not easy to recruit a guard, the sheer number of martial artists was there. One could always hire one with money. However, even if the number of alchemists was also there, it was really not easy to get one. Zheng Difang did not continue to shadow Chen Fei. Chen Fei took the time to go out a few times and raised the proficiency of the vitality pill to the perfection level. Chen Fei was not in a hurry to refine the vitality pill to the level of perfection because the perfected vitality pill technique was already completely sufficient for Chen Fei's current refining requirements. Not only were the pills round and full, but the number of pills formed in each refinement was also substantial. It could be said that the medicinal properties of the medicinal herbs were all infused into the pills without any waste. As for the perfected vitality pills, it would probably bring out new things and make the effects of the vitality pills even better. This was naturally good, but it was not easy to complete the 10,000 proficiency requirement in a short period of time. Thus, Chen Fei was not in a hurry and took it slowly. There was no one else in the pill refining room. Chen Fei went all out in refining each batch of vitality pills. The only difference between a perfect and a master-level vitality pill was the number of pills formed. Other than that, there was not much difference. To outsiders, Chen Fei naturally would not display such a high level of alchemy. Thus, he would directly eat the extra medicinal pills. The vitality pill was indeed a medicinal pill for ordinary martial artists. One vitality pill could increase Chen Fei's cultivation by 1 point, and he could take 5 vitality pills a day. Adding the cultivation that he had increased with his own cultivation technique, he could increase his cultivation by 6 points a day. Even if the suspended wind breathing technique isn't simplified, I'll only need less than 5 months to break through to the body tempering realm, Chen Fei muttered to himself. This was the first time he felt the power of pills, or rather, the power of money. 1 tael of silver could be used to buy 5 vitality pills. A month's salary for a normal guard could only buy 25 vitality pills. As a result, the guards rarely bought vitality pills to cultivate because it was too expensive. Only those with martial arts potential would be willing to invest so much. Moreover, one had to continue investing for a few years before the results could be seen. In Pingying County, only the disciples of the aristocratic families or the direct disciples of the extreme mountain fist hall could be like Chen Fei, taking the maximum amount of vitality pills every day to catch up with their cultivation as soon as possible. A powerful alchemist really does earn a lot of money, and this is just a vitality pill. Chen Fei shook his head slightly and threw a vitality pill into his mouth to refine. He could not help but reveal a smile. Chen Fei planned to withdraw some silver from the medical hall in a few days so that he could simplify the two merged cultivation techniques. Although Chen Fei's cultivation progress was not bad with the help of the vitality pills, how could Chen Fei refuse anything that could make him stronger faster? Moreover, Chen Fei was always filled with uncertainty and unease in this world. After all, his previous life was in a peaceful and prosperous world. Now that it was a world full of evilness and man-made disasters, it was difficult for people to really feel at ease. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed. Other than concentrating on refining vitality pills and cultivating, Chen Fei would take the time to go out and refine the progress of his stir-fried pork liver. Chen Fei realized that he was being followed while he was stir-frying pork liver in the dilapidated courtyard, but it didn't really bother him since he was the most popular person in Qingzhen Medical Hall. Everyone in the medical hall could see Zheng Difang's fondness for Chen Fei. He was just short of announcing that Chen Fei was his last disciple. Under such circumstances, many people were naturally curious about how Chen Fei did it. Perhaps there was a special way. However, when those people saw him stir-frying pork liver in the courtyard, he wondered what kind of expression they would have. Stir-frying pork liver had nothing to do with refining pills. Otherwise, those chefs in the restaurant would probably become alchemy masters. These people could only attribute Chen Fei's stir-fried pork liver to Chen Fei's personal special hobby. Because other than this, they really couldn't think of any other reason. Some people were unwilling to give up. They followed Chen Fei for a few days, and they would see Chen Fei stir-fry a thumb-sized amount of pork liver every time, and it was mind-numbing to them. What kind of weird hobby was this? Logically speaking, it's not good to withdraw the silver in advance, but I also know your situation, so after asking Steward Kui has agreed. This is 30 taels of silver. Keep it well. The accountant handed the money to Chen Fei. Chen Fei took a look, and a smile appeared on his face. According to the number of pills that Chen Fei had specifically produced, Chen Fei's monthly income was about 50 taels, which was 10 times that of an ordinary guard. How could this not be envied by others? Now that the medical hall had agreed to allow Chen Fei to withdraw 30 taels of silver in advance, it was obvious that they saw his potential and understood that Chen Fei had the ability to repay it. That was why they were so ready to approve it. Returning to his room, Chen Fei was slightly excited. Stats interface, simplify cultivation technique, wind suspending breathing technique. Wind suspending breathing technique is being simplified. The simplified version was successful. Wind suspending breathing technique, extreme mountain breathing technique. Seeing the information displayed on the interface, Chen Fei was stunned. Why was it simplified to the extreme mountain breathing technique from back then? Then, Chen Fei thought of something and tried to circulate the extreme mountain breathing technique that he had perfected back then. Then, he saw that the wind suspending breathing technique's experience value +1 on the interface. Holy shit! Chen Fei's eyes widened. This panel really exceeded Chen Fei's expectations time and time again. It was really a matryoshka. Chapter 11. New Pill Recipe. Chen Fei had long cultivated the extreme mountain breathing technique to the cultivation level of great completion. He had mastered it thoroughly and could even reduce some steps on the basis of the original breathing rhythm. Although he had previously fused it with the wind-suspending force, after the fusion, there was only a new wind-suspending breathing technique. It did not mean that Chen Fei had forgotten how to use the extreme mountain breathing technique. At this moment, as Chen Fei continued to circulate the extreme mountain breathing technique, the experience points of the wind-suspending breathing technique began to rise continuously. The comprehension of the wind-suspending breathing technique appeared in his mind simultaneously, causing him to immerse himself in it instinctively. An hour later, Chen Fei looked at the panel and couldn't help but smile. Wind-suspending breathing technique experience points had increased by more than 100. According to this rhythm, Chen Fei could raise his wind-suspending breathing technique to the cultivation level of perfection in about 2 days as long as he worked hard. Even attaining great completion would take less than a month. During this period, Chen Fei's cultivation progress continued to accelerate, and he would reach the peak in a month. Perhaps he would be able to shorten the time needed to break through to the body tempering realm from 5 months to 2 to 3 months, or even shorter. Interface: Simplify Clear Mountain Sword. The Clear Mountain Sword is being simplified. Simplification successful. Clear Mountain Sword Rightward Arrow Extreme Mountain Fist. Looking at the information on the interface, as expected, it was simplified into Extreme Mountain Fist. Chen Fei could not help but grin. If the simplified cultivation techniques are all like this in the future, then I'll try my best to cultivate every cultivation technique to perfection. That way, I won't have to take any detours, Chen Fei muttered softly and stood up to practice Extreme Mountain Fist. It was straightforward. The Extreme Mountain Fist did not have any complicated changes in force. What it sought was a strong and heavy force. In just a moment, the sound of a strong wind whistling could be heard in the room, and the experience points related to the Clear Mountain Sword on the interface were also rising continuously. More than 20 days passed in a blink of an eye, and Chen Fei's life was relaxed and comfortable. Every day, he would refine a few batches of vitality pills, then take some time to go out and stir-fry some pork liver to throw off those who were still following Chen Fei. In his spare time, Chen Fei did not go anywhere else and just stayed in his room to cultivate. Both the wind-suspending breathing technique and the Clear Mountain Sword technique had reached the perfection stage, and there was still a distance between them and the great completion stage. However, Chen Fei had already benefited a lot from the 2 cultivation techniques of the perfection stage. By relying on the perfected Clear Mountain Sword, it was difficult for ordinary warriors of the same level to be a match for Chen Fei. Even when facing a martial artist in the body tempering realm, Chen Fei would not be completely helpless. This was the power of a perfected cultivation technique. After all, not all martial artists had the talent to cultivate a cultivation technique to perfection, let alone great completion. The master level was the current state of most martial artists. As for Chen Fei, as long as he worked hard, he would be able to reach great completion. Under such circumstances, how could Chen Fei not do his best? As his cultivation continued to grow, the burden that the mark on Chen Fei's hand brought to him gradually lessened. A few days ago, Chen Fei's salary shocked many people. It was unknown if the clinic was doing this on purpose, but Chen Fei's monthly salary of more than 50 taels of silver shocked many people. In fact, this amount of money was only a little more than the number of alchemists in the medical hall. Chen Fei only knew how to refine the vitality pill, and he didn't produce much. However, it could not be compared to others. Thinking about what Chen Fei was like a month ago, he was a lowly servant in the medical hall. If anyone was unhappy, they could beat and scold him. His monthly salary was less than 1 tael of silver. Now, not only did his status increase, but his income had also increased by dozens of times. How could anyone not be envious? Chen Fei wasn't stingy, either. He spent 10 taels of silver to treat everyone in the medical hall to a meal at a restaurant. Zheng Difang and Kui Sanja also supported him by making an appearance, which dispelled the jealousy of many people. At the same time, more and more people began to curry favor with Chen Fei. They had already recognized the fact that Chen Fei was no longer the small errand boy from before. A few days ago, Chen Fei had already cultivated the vitality pill to the realm of great completion. Chen Fei specially asked Zheng Difang for a few more pill formulas. Although Zheng Difang felt that Chen Fei was a little too hasty and should have thoroughly consumed the vitality pill first, he did not completely reject Chen Fei. He still gave Chen Fei a few pill formulas so that Chen Fei could gain some knowledge. Zheng Difang treated Chen Fei as if he was his own disciple. If Chen Fei had any doubts, he could come to him. The pill formulas that he took out this time were also carefully selected. Beauty pills, detoxification pills, innate bone pills, and healing pills. As the name suggested, the beauty pill had the effect of preserving one's appearance after a period of consumption. It was very popular among some women, so it was not cheap. When it was usually sold, it was much more expensive than the vitality pill. The detoxification pill could alleviate the effects of ordinary small poisons. It was a necessary pill for many martial artists when they went out. The innate bone pill was a type of pill that was specially given to children who had yet to practice martial arts. There was an age requirement for practicing martial arts. One couldn't start too young because their bones had yet to mature. It would be harmful to practice martial arts too early. At this time, taking the innate bone pill every day could improve one's innate bone talent and make the path of martial arts smoother. It was obvious that this pill was prepared for the descendants of aristocratic families because it was expensive. Ordinary people could barely afford to eat meat. They wouldn't have the money to afford this pill. As for the final one, the healing pill, just as the name implied, could be used to alleviate or even directly heal internal injuries after being injured. Even if it couldn't heal the injury, it could still suppress it. Different from the regular pill formulas, these pill formulas came with detailed instructions in them, allowing beginners to grasp them more quickly. Chen Fei did not learn all 4 pill formulas but chose to learn the detoxification pill and the healing pill first. The problem of money had been temporarily solved. Thus, Chen Fei's study of the pill formula was more to serve his future martial arts path. After all, only by mastering great power could one truly protect the things that matter. The detoxification pill is being simplified. Simplification successful. Detoxification pill rightward arrow stir-fry Chinese yam. Healing pill is being simplified. Simplification successful. Healing pill rightward arrow fried chicken. Chinese yam could clear away heat and detoxify, and the chicken was high in protein. The simplifications were quite reasonable. Yes, that sounds about right. Chen Fei touched his nose. Now, he had some understanding of the principle of the interface's simplicity. The simplified pill formula was still stir-fried, which saved Chen Fei a lot of trouble. Chen Fei originally wanted to fuse the Great Completion Vitality pill with a new pill formula. In the end, he succeeded, but the new pill formula seemed a little nondescript. After all, vitality pills were used for cultivation. Detoxification pills and healing pills had different effects. The new pill formula seemed to have 2 functions, but it weakened the original expertise of each pill. Even if this kind of pill formula were refined into a medicinal pill, it would probably not be easy to sell because others could completely buy a targeted medicinal pill to consume. In the end, Chen Fei took apart the newly fused pill formulas and simplified them separately. After obtaining the new pill formula, Chen Fei enthusiastically immersed himself in the process of grinding proficiency. Other than cultivating cultivation techniques and refining vitality pills every day, the rest of the time was spent cooking. Chapter 12. Accident. Chen Fei's strange hobby of stir-frying vegetables and his love for stir-fried pork liver had slowly spread throughout the clinic. Stir-fried pork liver was stir-fried pork liver, but every time he made it, he only prepared the size of a fingernail. It was really puzzling. However, it seemed that he had stopped stir-frying pork liver recently. They couldn't tell if he was tired of eating it or something else. Recently, he had changed to stir-frying Chinese yam and chicken. The only thing that had not changed was that he still cooked tiny portions. Kui Sanja even came to ask Chenfei if he would like a spot in the kitchen of the medical hall. Chenfei declined politely. Instead, he spent some money to rent a small house in the county. He ate and lived outside and would only return to the medical hall to refine pills. Chenfei hated this kind of simple life in his previous life. However, in this world, he was willing to accept it. Anyone who sees their hard work being continuously rewarded would probably be like Chenfei. Many people were not born lazy. It was just that after they worked hard, they did not see any returns despite waiting for a long time, so they would slowly slack off. Chenfei was busy cultivating, cooking, and refining pills every day. He even used up a lot of his sleep time at night. Staying up late was addictive. Time passed by silently, and soon, another 10 days had passed. In the courtyard, Chenfei held a long sword and kept moving it around. The light reflected off the long sword and kept throwing flashes of light around his surrounding. Swift and fierce, the clear mountain sword in Chenfei's hand released a tremendous power. If anyone from Qingzhen Medical Hall were to see this scene, they would definitely not be able to recognize the sword technique. It would be the clear wind sword passed down from the medical hall. Although there were some similarities between the two, most of them were already very different. The sound of a sharp blade cutting through the air rang out, and Chenfei stopped after some time. A fine crack appeared in the fake mountain in the courtyard. The location of the crack was abnormally smooth as if it had been carefully polished. Sword Qi. Chenfei had successfully cultivated the clear mountain sword to the great completion. After the great completion, the clear mountain sword actually developed the effect of sword Qi. The power of the sword Qi was passable, but it could not leave the blade. It only extended less than a foot away from the tip of the sword. If the opponent were on guard, it would be difficult for this bit of sword Qi to hurt him. However, if the sword Qi were to be suddenly released and the enemy wasn't expecting it, it would probably easily hit its target. No one would have thought that a warrior who was only in the skin toughening realm could actually cultivate sword Qi. Sword Qi was related to cultivation, and it was even more closely related to the realm of sword techniques. It was obvious that the clear mountain sword, which had reached the great completion, had already met the basic requirements for sword Qi. Chenfei had not only cultivated the clear mountain sword to great completion, but also the wind-suspended breathing technique. The wind-suspending breathing technique at the peak level gave Chenfei cultivation experience points every day, which somewhat exceeded Chenfei's expectations. Originally, he estimated that he would only be able to reach the body tempering realm in another 2 months. Thinking about it now, Chenfei thought he would be able to complete his breakthrough in just slightly more than a month and become a martial artist in the body tempering realm. The skin toughening realm was considered the weakest among martial artists. It was only slightly stronger than ordinary people, but it was far from enough to be seen among martial artists. However, the body tempering realm was considered to be the backbone of strength in Pingyang County. For example, Pu Liao of the medical center was only in the body tempering realm, but his status was much higher than that of the average guard. His monthly salary also rose. They were definitely incomparable to alchemists, but as long as they didn't buy a large number of pills to cultivate, those in the body tempering realm could live comfortably in Pingyang County, and their social status was also very high. Nothing major happened in the medical hall for more than 10 days, but something happened outside Pingyang County. A wave of refugees arrived outside Pingyang County. The refugees did not enter the city but found a place to settle outside. This world was not stable. Chenfei heard that the current dynasty had lasted for more than 700 years. From a few decades ago, Some turmoil had already begun to occur in various places. This wave of refugees had been forced to leave their homes and came to Pingyang County because someone had risen up and forcefully occupied a city dozens of miles away. Today, the eldest daughter is bringing us to the disaster relief clinic. At the same time, we will be giving out porridge. Everyone, cheer up. Don't tarnish the reputation of our Qingzheng Medical Hall. When Chen Fei arrived at the medical hall, Kui Sanja was already in the middle of giving his speech. The Qingzheng Medical Hall was the property of the Zhang family in Pingyang County. The Zhang family was a big family in Pingyang County. Not only did they have a medical hall under their name, but they also had a rice shop. However, the medical hall was the most important business of the Zhang family. Most of its income and strength came from it. The county government had ordered all the big families in Pingyang County to go outside the city to provide disaster relief, and the distribution of porridge had to be carried out every day. Otherwise, if this wave of refugees caused a ruckus, the county government would not be able to handle it. In the end, the entire Pingyang County would be affected. You're Chen Fei. A girl walked in front of Chen Fei and sized him up a few times. He was not as thin as the rumors said, but he was too tanned and did not look good at all. She could not help but curl her lips in disdain and said, "We finally meet. The mission my father gave me can be considered to have been completed." After the girl finished speaking, she turned around and left. Chen Fei looked at the girl's back and suddenly remembered that this should be Zheng Difang's second daughter, Zheng Kailing. Zheng Difang had mentioned this to Chen Fei a few days ago, and it seemed that he wanted to match-make the two of them. Chen Fei didn't take it to heart at that time. He didn't expect to meet Zheng Kailing here. The eldest daughter of the Zhang family, Zhang Xinan, arrived very quickly. Zheng Kailing ran over, and they seemed to have a close relationship. Zhang Xinan might have turned her head to glance at Chen Fei, but she didn't say anything. The group of people left the clinic and arrived outside the city. The pot was set up to cook the porridge, and the doctor was sitting at the side. Soon, the refugees lined up. As an alchemist, Chen Fei only lent a hand from time to time. The rest was handled by the workers in the medical hall and rice shop. The fragrance of the porridge filled the air, and soon, it was noon. "Young miss, someone wants us to make a house call and treat their master." Kui Sanja came to Zhang Xinan's side and pointed at a servant in tattered clothes in the distance. "Why don't you let them come over directly?" Zhang Xinan frowned. "She's critically ill and can't get out of bed." Kui Sanja tightened the jade in his sleeve and said with a smile, "All right, send a few people over. The earlier you go, the earlier you can return." Zhang Xinan nodded in agreement. After all, she was here to provide disaster relief. Kui-san smiled and ordered a physician. Seeing that Chen Fei was fine, he also let him go and asked Pu Liao to protect the two of them. After the time, the three of them arrived at a dilapidated courtyard. Pu Liao sniffed the air, and his expression changed. Just as he was about to turn around, a figure appeared behind him and kicked him in the chest. Pu Liao was sent flying, and he crashed into the wall. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was as pale as paper. Chapter 13. Fierce Bandits. Your reaction is quite quick, but your cultivation is too weak. Jian Liang glanced at Pu Liao, then turned to Chen Fei and Physician Song. He smiled and said, "I didn't scare the two of you, right? It's a critical period, so I had to do this. Didn't you ask to see a doctor? What are you?" Physician Song looked at Jian Liang and the two people who had appeared at the city wall as he asked in fear. Chen Fei's brows were tightly furrowed as he looked around and thought of an escape route. However, after a moment, he could not help but sigh. He couldn't escape. All the possible places to escape were blocked by Jian Liang. And with Chen Fei's current strength, if he forcefully broke out, the result would probably not be much better than Pu Liao. Looking at Jian Liang's actions just now, there was no doubt that he was a vicious and merciless person. This time, the situation was really dangerous. I'm indeed here to see a doctor, it's just that his reaction is too big, so I have no choice but to do what I did. Jian Liang spread his hands and said, "Please, after you." Physician Song's hands and feet were trembling. He was just an ordinary doctor. When had he ever been witness to such a scene? Chen Fei stepped forward and helped Physician Song into the courtyard. Jian Liang tilted his head in Pu Liao's direction. Immediately, someone came over to help Pu Liao up, and they entered the courtyard together. "We encountered some complications, and our brothers were injured. As long as you can cure them, I will pay the consultation fee, and I won't touch you at all." Walking into the hall, he saw many injured people lying on the ground, and the smell of blood assailed his nose. Pu Liao had detected the smell and realized that something was wrong, but it was too late. "You have to keep your word." Physician Song forced himself to remain calm. "We still have respect and honor for our savior." Jian Liang grinned and said, "But the prerequisite is that you have to cure them. If you can't cure them, then don't blame me for being ruthless." Physician Song's expression was stiff. He didn't dare to look at Jian Liang anymore and walked towards an injured person. Right now, he only wanted to treat these people and leave this place immediately. As a doctor in Qingzhen Medical Hall, Physician Song's medical skills were very good. He only needed to check the patient's condition briefly to come up with a treatment plan. He turned around and whispered a few words to Chen Fei. Chen Fei started to apply the medicine to the injured person while Song Miao continued to walk toward another injured person. As the two of them worked through the room simultaneously, the occasional moans in the hall gradually decreased. Jian Liang, who was supervising from the side, looked much better. Pu Liao leaned against the wall and looked at everything in front of him. His eyes were filled with coldness. He was afraid that others would see it, so he lowered his head and closed his eyes. He only gritted his teeth, revealing his current state of mind. In just a short while, the dozen or so injured people in the hall were all treated. At this moment, their pain was relieved, and they could not help but reveal a smile on their faces. Song Miao wiped the sweat off his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. The injuries of these people were all similar. Most of them were caused by knife wounds, so it wasn't difficult to treat them. Any random clinic in Pingyang County could probably save these people. However, these people probably didn't have a clean background as they did not dare to go to Pingyang County. They could only use such methods to trick a few people into treating them. "Doctor, you are indeed a miracle doctor. I thank you on behalf of my brothers." Jian Liang's face was already full of smiles, his fiendish look completely gone. "You flatter me. Can we leave now?" Song Miao waved his hand. Song Miao did not ask about the consultation fee. He only wanted to leave this place safely. "There's no hurry. There's still one person who needs treatment. Follow me." Jian Liang walked forward. Song Miao glanced at Chen Fei and couldn't help but sigh. The matter was not over yet. Chen Fei didn't say anything. He kept predicting the worst possible scenario in his heart and made preparations to escape. When they arrived at the backyard, it was obvious that it had been tidied up. It was much cleaner and fresher. There were even servants rushing in and out. Judging from their clothes, they should be refugees. "Big brother, the doctor is here." They walked into a room and saw a person lying on the bed. There were a few people standing next to him, and they were all looking at Chen Fei and the other man with bright eyes. It was as if they would pounce on the two of them and kill them the moment they realized that something was wrong. "After you cure my big brother, you can leave. I will give these to you as well." Jian Liang pointed at the silver on the table beside him. At a rough glance, there were no less than 100 silver taels. Paying that amount for a consultation fee was considered a lot, but it came at the risk of one's life. Jian Liang had asked Song Miao to treat the others first, probably because he did not believe in Song Miao's medical skills. He only brought Song Miao over after everyone else had been treated. Since there was no room for objections, Song Miao stepped forward to take his pulse. After a moment, he frowned slightly and seemed to be hesitant. What? Is it incurable? If you can't cure it, I'll kill you. A person beside him said in a deep voice. A ferocious aura assaulted Song Miao's face, scaring him so much that his wrist trembled, and he almost fell. It can be cured. It can be cured. Song Miao wiped the sweat off his forehead and whispered, "This person's injuries are different from the others outside. He has suffered internal injuries and is quite serious. If you want to treat him, ordinary medicinal herbs are not enough. You must take a healing pill together. Since that's the case, why are you hesitating?" "I don't have any healing pills with me," Song Miao said bitterly. He had gone out of the city today to provide free medical treatment for the refugees, so he had only brought ordinary medicine. He had left the pills needed to heal warriors back at the medical hall. "So, you can't cure him now? Is that what you're saying?" The voice turned cold. They knew about the healing pills, but after the previous battle, they had already used up all their pills. Could they get someone to buy it in Pingying County? At this moment, the guards at the city gates of Pingying County were extremely strict. The refugees couldn't enter, and it would be difficult for those who have dubious backgrounds like them to enter. Moreover, they didn't know if the healing pill would be effective and work like Song Miao said. Perhaps it was because his medical skills were not enough, so he used the lack of medicinal pills as an excuse. If that was the case, it was better to kill them directly to prevent the news of them from being leaked. Let me think. Song Miao couldn't help but tremble. The killing intent of the people around him was no longer concealed. If his answer didn't satisfy them, they would probably slash at him in the next moment. "Physician Song, I have healing pills here." Chen Fei stepped forward and took out a bottle of medicinal pills from his waist pouch. It was the batch of healing pills that Chen Fei had refined a few days ago after he had reached the proficient level of healing pills. It looked ordinary, but it was enough for healing. Chen Fei didn't sell it, so he kept it with him. Song Miao's expression froze for a moment before he was overjoyed. He quickly took out the pill and handed it to Jian Liang. "Take it with warm water. I'll give him acupuncture, and he'll get better." Jian Liang sniffed the medicinal pill. It was indeed a healing pill. He then fed it to the person on the bed. Song Miao took out a silver needle and began to perform acupuncture on the injured person's body. In just a moment, the person on the bed coughed loudly and spat out a mouthful of blood. His complexion clearly improved. Chapter 14. Gently wiping the long sword. Take one pill every morning for 7 consecutive days. Mash this herb and light it up. It can help the injured recover faster. Song Miao took out the medicinal herbs and instructed. "Thank you, doctor. This is the consultation fee. Please accept it." The surrounding people saw that their big brother's injuries had improved and were in a good mood. Gone was the deep killing intent from before. Song Miao didn't dare to accept the consultation fees from these people and waved his hands repeatedly. In the end, Song Miao couldn't turn down Jian Liang's enthusiasm and took a tael of silver tentatively. The smiles on the faces of the people around him grew wider, and they no longer forced Song Miao to take the rest of the consultation fees. Chen Fei watched from the side, his heart turning cold. Only Song Miao understood the ways of the world. If he had accepted all the consultation fees just now, the two of them would have lost their heads. These people seemed to be forthright, but there was no way they would really give money to them so casually. Even if it was consultation fees, it didn't change anything. Walking out of the room and into the hall, he found Pu Liao unconscious on the ground. "Just now, this person wanted to escape but was caught by our brothers. We broke one of his legs," someone beside Jian Liang said. Jian Liang's brows moved slightly. He looked at Chen Fei and the other Song Miao with a smile that wasn't really one. Finally, he cupped his hands and said, "Brothers, my men didn't know their limits and injured him. Why don't you take some silver for this brother to go back to heal his injuries?" "No. No, it's fine." Song Miao quickly waved his hand and glanced at Chen Fei. Chen Fei understood and carried Pu Liao on his back before quickly leaving the courtyard. "Should we chase after them and kill them?" someone suggested. "Forget it. They did save quite a few of us. Big Brother's injuries have stabilized now. Consider their lives as consultation fees." Jian Liang smiled coldly and turned around to walk into the backyard. Chen Fei couldn't help but pant after carrying Pu Liao for a while. Although Chen Fei's cultivation had been improving recently, his physical strength was only slightly better than ordinary people's. Running with someone on his back was a little too much. Run quickly, lest they go back on their word. Song Miao was also panting, but he did not dare to stop for a rest. He was afraid that those people would chase after them. Chen Fei nodded. The sense of urgency in his heart to better his own strength quickened. He was really lucky today. Had he taken a single wrong step, he would probably have died inside. Pu Liao's strength was considered pretty good. Taking advantage of Jian Liang's departure, he waited for an opportunity to escape, but in the end, he was still captured. It was evident that those people were skilled. The various plans Chen Fei had formulated in his mind earlier would have all probably ended in disaster if they were implemented. In less than 15 minutes, the two of them ran back to the city wall. Kui Sanja and the others were shocked when they saw Chen Fei and the others, especially Pu Liao. What happened? Zhang Xinan looked at Pu Liao's broken leg and frowned. Even if his legs were to make a full recovery, he would never be able to walk normally again. "We encountered a nest of mountain bandits," sigh. Song Miao finally heaved a sigh of relief and told him everything that had happened. As the story went on, the surrounding people were a little shocked. One could very well imagine that if Song Miao's medical skills weren't good enough, or if he didn't have any healing pills, or if he was a little greedy, he would probably have been beheaded. These mountain bandits really do not know their bounds. I'll report them to the county government to hunt down these mountain bandits. Zhang Xinan shouted coldly, turned around, and walked into the county. Kui Sanja hurried forward and whispered something to Zhang Xinan. Zhang Xinan's expression changed, but she didn't say anything and continued walking forward. Chen Fei took a few deep breaths. This matter would probably be left unsettled in the end. The county government wouldn't care about what happened outside Pingying County, and the Zhang family would most likely pretend that this matter never happened. There wasn't an issue since nobody lost their lives, right? Just as Chen Fei had expected, the Zhang clan did not publicize this matter. They only compensated Chen Fei and the other two with some silver taels as a form of consolation. Pu Liao's consolation money would be higher. After all, he had a broken leg. The news that Chen Fei had received more than 10 taels of silver and knew how to refine healing pills spread throughout the medical hall. Zheng Difang comforted him and even invited Chen Fei to his house to drink with him. Compared to the vitality pill, the healing pill was a little more difficult to refine. However, Chen Fei was able to refine the healing pill on his own within a dozen days after obtaining the pill formula. This showed Chen Fei's talent in alchemy. It also dispelled some people's thoughts that Chen Fei could only refine vitality pills and would be beaten back to his original position if he tried his hand at refining other pills. "Elder Zheng, do you have the recipe for the Qi rejuvenation pill?" Chen Fei asked in a low voice. The Qi rejuvenation pill was considered an advanced version of the vitality pill. It had a stronger effect on promoting cultivation. Of course, it was also more expensive. Only a martial artist in the body tempering realm would be willing to spend money to buy such a pill to cultivate. Chen Fei had already experienced firsthand for himself that the cultivation speed was considerable when he used the vitality pill to cultivate. However, This world was too dangerous. Who knew when an accident would happen? Chen Fei hoped that his cultivation could grow faster. Most people in the skin toughening realm would probably not use the Qi rejuvenation pill so frivolously to cultivate their skills. However, Chen Fei could refine it himself, so there was no problem in terms of affording it. Just like the vitality pill, he could keep a portion for himself to consume after refining it. The formula for the Qi rejuvenation pill cannot be taught to you without the permission of the Zhang family. Zheng Difang shook his head, picked up a chicken foot, and threw it into his mouth. Then how can I convince the Zhang family to agree? Chen Fei asked. With Chen Fei's current earnings, if he were to buy Qi rejuvenation pills to cultivate, he would probably not be able to make ends meet. Marry into the family. Zheng Difang smiled and glanced at Chen Fei. But you don't have a chance anymore. The Zhang family's young misses are already married. However, other than marrying into the Zhang family, there is another way, and that is to make contributions to the Zhang family. Elder Zheng, please give me some pointers. Chen Fei cupped his hands. Your talent isn't bad, and the Zhang family sees it. I'll help you ask around tomorrow and let you know. After 3 rounds of wine, Zheng Difang had already fallen asleep on the table. Chen Fei returned to his courtyard and wiped the sword in his hand. Other than the Qi rejuvenation pill, Chen Fei also wanted to obtain stronger martial arts techniques. However, based on the answers Zheng Difang gave before, the clear wind sword and the wind suspending force were already the best cultivation techniques that an outsider of the Zhang family could obtain. Stronger cultivation techniques would only be passed down into the hands of the Zhang family or someone who marries into the family. Even if one made a contribution to the Zhang family, they wouldn't be able to obtain any cultivation techniques from them. All the aristocratic families, or even the extreme mountain fist hall, keep their profound techniques under wraps. I'm still fine at the skin toughening realm, but when I reach the body tempering realm, the effect of the wind suspending breathing technique will definitely be weakened, and the clear mountain sword wouldn't be able to keep up in the future. Chen Fei muttered to himself as he looked at his interface. An idea slowly appeared in Chen Fei's mind. The interface could simplify cultivation techniques, and cultivation techniques that had been cultivated to perfection could be fused. Since he could not obtain advanced martial arts cultivation techniques, why not cultivate a few more basic cultivation techniques? When the time came, fusing them together would definitely cause changes. From quantitative change to qualitative change, there was no need to kneel and beg for help. Chen Fei could completely walk his own martial arts path. Chapter 15. Black Market. There was a black market in Pingying County. Chen Fei only found out about it from Zheng Difang. He heard that the previous location was not far from the north wall of Pingying County. Now, because of the refugees, the black market was directly opened inside Pingying County. Chen Fei guessed that this black market must have an official background. Otherwise, how could the county government allow this black market to operate so openly? In the dark of the night, Chen Fei wore a bamboo hat and a mask to hide his face as he arrived at the black market. Unlike what he had imagined, this so-called black market was actually quite lively. Other than the lack of hawking, it wasn't much different from the night market in Pingying County. Along the way, Chen Fei looked around. The products the stalls had put on display to sell were strange and unique. Many of them were things that Chen Fei had never seen or even heard of. Every time he encountered something he'd never seen or heard before, Chen Fei would stand silently at the back and listen to the conversations of those people, gaining some information from them. Just by listening in, Chen Fei actually obtained a lot of useful information. Chen Fei stopped in front of a stall after walking around a bit. There were many secret manuals at this stall, but strangely, there were very few people standing there. Feel free to look through them. These are some excerpts of the full secret manual. If you see one that you like, we can discuss the price. I will naturally take out the complete manual once the time is right. Seeing Chen Fei stop, The stall owner glanced at the deerskin gloves on Chen Fei's hand and said with a smile, "Do you have any movement techniques?" Chen Fei didn't touch anything and asked directly. Chen Fei thought about it yesterday. Although he lacked cultivation and cultivation techniques, what he lacked the most was actually movement techniques. If one had a good movement technique, their first choice would be to run when they encountered danger. As long as they ran fast enough, even if their cultivation realm was inferior to others, the probability of keeping their lives was actually quite high. Of course. Young hero, take a look at these books. The stall owner picked out a few secret manuals and placed them in front of Chen Fei. Water crossing, weightless perch, grass surfing, wave riding. Chen Fei casually picked up a book and flipped through it. After a moment, Chen Fei put down the secret manual and picked up another one. In less than 15 minutes, Chen Fei had finished reading all 4 secret manuals with a thoughtful expression. These are all basic Qigong manuals. Do you have any better ones? Chen Fei asked after a moment's thought. Of course I do, but if I dare to give it to you, do you dare to practice it? The stall owner looked at Chen Fei with a faint smile and said, "Of course, I have better secret manuals other than the basic secret manuals. However, I don't know if they are complete. If something happens because of the secret manual I gave you, I won't be responsible." Chen Fei was a little thrown off. After all, he was still inexperienced. Ordinary people would not be able to distinguish a few slight changes in a cultivation technique manual. If it was changed at a critical point, the person who cultivated the cultivation technique might even go berserk. The danger of paralysis was very real. The more profound the cultivation technique, the more so. On the other hand, the basic cultivation techniques had a simple circulation route through the body's system. Even if one made a mistake in their cultivation, there wouldn't be too much of a problem. Moreover, as a martial artist's cultivation increased, he could tell at a glance if there were any problems with the basic cultivation technique. Even though Chen Fei was only in the skin toughening realm, he had cultivated a few techniques to perfection. Looking at the 4 secret manuals just now, he did not find any problems. They could all be cultivated directly. What's the price for these 4 secret manuals? One book costs 2 taels of silver. How many books do you want? I want them all. As Chen Fei spoke, he took out 8 taels of silver and placed them on the stall. The stall owner revealed a smile. He took out the second half of the corresponding secret manual from the seat behind him and handed it to Chen Fei. Chen Fei flipped through it and did not find any problems. He put the 4 secret manuals into the bag he carried behind him. "Oh right, give me a technique manual, something more profound." Chen Fei thought for a moment and said. Chen Fei wanted to try and see if the interface would be able to complete an incomplete secret manual and let him cultivate the technique. The stall owner's brows twitched slightly, but he didn't refuse. He searched around the stall and took out a secret manual to pass to Chen Fei. The Immortal Cloud Sword, the unique sword technique of the Immortal Cloud Sword sect. Immortal Cloud Sword sect. Chen Fei was slightly startled. This sect was too famous. Within a radius of several thousand miles, the Immortal Cloud Sword sect was probably the most powerful one. There were many strong people in the sect. Every year, countless people wanted to join it, but they never had the chance. Chen Fei's predecessor had also fantasized about it back then, but unfortunately, he did not succeed. Chen Fei took the secret manual and flipped through it slightly. His brows furrowed and relaxed. With Chen Fei's knowledge of where the clear mountain sword was at the great completion level, he could tell that there were indeed some profound theories on sword principle recorded in the Immortal Cloud Sword. However, most of them were nonsense. It was more like someone had obtained some sword techniques, and then because the instructions were incomplete, they stuffed many of their own insights into them, even delusional truths. What price? Chen Fei raised his head and asked. 50 taels. The stall owner grinned. Chen Fei didn't say anything and just looked at the stall owner. How dare he quote such a price for a secret manual that he had made up? The stall owner did not show any weakness and looked at Chen Fei calmly. That was the price he was willing to sell at. What could Chen Fei do? Chen Fei nodded, put down the manual, and turned to leave. Money didn't drop from the heavens for him. He only had slightly more, but he had to spend it slowly. Spending so much money just to test the interface was simply a waste. Hey, don't go. Name a price. The stall owner's voice came from behind. Chen Fei stopped in his tracks and thought for a moment before saying, 3 taels. All right, deal. The stall owner immediately agreed, as if he was afraid that Chen Fei would go back on his word. He took out the other half of the secret manual and stuffed it into Chen Fei's hand. Chen Fei was a little speechless. It would seem the price of 3 taels was too high. However, Chen Fei did not go back on his word. He took a look at the second half of the secret manual. It indeed contained some sword principles. He could not say that he had made a loss completely for buying this cultivation technique for 3 taels. Young hero, if you have any other needs in the future, you can come to me. This is where I set up my stall every night. After making 2 deals, the stall owner was in a good mood. Chen Fei waved his hand, put away the secret manual, and turned to leave. In the black market, Chen Fei wandered around a few more times and even specially inquired about the sale of pill formulas. However, other than the basic pill formulas, the black market did not have any slightly higher level pill formulas. As the night deepened, Chen Fei did not stay long and left the black market. After returning to his rented place, Chen Fei took out the water crossing technique and began to study it seriously. An hour later, the information about the water crossing technique finally appeared on the interface. Interface, simplify water crossing technique. Water crossing technique is being simplified. Simplification is successful. Water crossing technique rightward arrow walk. Part 1 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.